Good evening. I'm Dr. Leila Lewis, and this is another presentation of Liberty and Health Alliance. We are so glad that you have joined us this evening. Tonight comes with the title of Liberty of Conscience Document. This is the official release and global appeal. You know, many individuals around the world globally have lost their jobs based on recent mandates. Now education, even of the youngest populations, are at risk. Healthcare, even some have lost their own personal physicians because of a desire, for one reason or another, to not accept the COVID vaccine. The result has been quite phenomenal. And tonight we are going to discuss the issue and actually make an appeal based on a document entitled to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, an appeal of defense of liberty of conscience. What tonight is not, just at the outset to say, tonight is not a political discussion. It's not against any political party or authority. It's based on the Bible and in support of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The views expressed by those who are participating are their own personal views and do not necessarily represent the organization or entity that they may be associated with. This is a global call to the church at large, to the Christian church, and in particular the Seventh-day Adventist Church, to stand with courage and defend liberty of conscience for all, regardless if one chooses to be vaxxed or unvaxxed. Every individual has the right to choose for themselves what they wish to do with their own body. Now is the time to let our collective voices be known. Lately, I personally have been reading Esther and have been so impressed with how she, like Joseph, like so many others, like Daniel, stood when everyone else did not. And I've been particularly struck with the following verse. For if you remain completely silent, her cousin Mordecai appealed to her in the certain situation that she was in. If you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from the Jews from another place. Who knows if you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? And so we hope and pray, although this is a direct appeal to Seventh-day Adventists, we also appeal to our other Christian brothers and sisters, that if you have not yet stood, that you will let your voice be known, as Esther's was, and so many others, to help defend all in face of liberty of conscience. But the Seventh-day Adventist Church, as this document is written specifically as an appeal to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, of course, including and not at the exclusion in any way, shape, or form of our Christian brothers and sisters of other faiths, but the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a global church. We have members all over the world. And of course, this is a global crisis, this pandemic. And so members throughout the world are, even in some cases, actually experiencing more difficulty in other countries than maybe even here in the United States. We are seeing members and individuals who have these religious convictions, who have chosen for one reason or another not to get the vaccine, being unable to speak, receive an education, work, travel, and even the ability to buy and sell is being limited if one chooses to not accept the COVID vaccine. This is a problem, and we want to talk to some of our international guests as well. But I am very, very excited to introduce someone that many of you know who has just come into our stage, Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, what a pleasure to have you with us here today. For my entire life, I have been in awe of you. As a prominent neurosurgeon, I remember as a little girl reading the book Gifted Hands. In fact, you were one of the ones that inspired me to go into medicine. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist, but Amen. You inspired me. I remember many, many years ago, you spoke at a camp meeting I was at. Of course, you've had much, much greater accomplishments than even that. And we're so happy and privileged that you joined us this evening. Dr. Carson, we had a question for you. In light of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and particularly as populations now who have chosen for one reason or another are experiencing mandates that are limiting their ability to make an income, to get educated, and just general well-being. What is your perspective on these mandates, sir?
Well, that's a very good question, because a lot of people think it's about vaccines and vaccinations. It's a much bigger issue than that. Remember that many people came to this country early on to try to escape from governments and monarchs who were always mandating things, telling them what they could do and what they couldn't do, what they could say, what they couldn't say. And we are in the process of opening the door for that to occur in this country. And once you open that door, it's very, very difficult to close that door back again. Having said that, we also must look at this from a scientific point of view. We can't let politics and ideology invade the laboratory. And that's what we've done, because we take people who have natural immunity, who've already had COVID, who have antibodies, and we say, that's not good enough. You still have to have the vaccination, even though we know that if you've had COVID already, it tends to affect more components of your immune system in a positive way, both IgG and IgA. So you get much more coverage, including mucous membranes, nasal cavities, and things like that, making it much less likely for you to spread the disease. So it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to say that people with natural immunity still have to undergo vaccination if they don't want to. Now, this is not to say that vaccinations aren't good, particularly for elderly people and for people with comorbidities. But everything is done on the basis of benefits and risk. And of course, if elderly with comorbid, you have much higher risk from the disease than someone who, say, is a child who has very little risk. And we don't really know what the long-term impacts are of the vaccinations. Why would you subject them to that kind of risk? So, if we went back to using the standard types of benefit risk analysis that we do in medicine in general, we wouldn't be even having this problem. The reason we're having the problem is because we're so inconsistent. And that's what happens when you mix politics with medicine. And let me just go back and reiterate, as far as mandates are concerned, they have no place in a country that is supposed to be the land of the free, where people are able to make choices. And if you give people the real information and stop trying to coerce people or manipulate people, I have no doubt that they will make very good decisions.